Video games have been the subject of controversy since the 70s. Knowing things can sometimes get bloody and gory in combat, it wouldn't be too difficult for fighting games to draw their fair share of scrutiny. From overtly graphic content to unpopular business practices, here are 10 fighting game controversies. Before we begin, one little note, there won't be any FGC-centric controversies such as EVO 2020's cancellation or any instances of collusion between players. However, FGC-related incidents centered more around a fighting game's content or functionality do qualify, as we are focusing more on the games, not feuds or incidents involving the competitive scene. Now, with all that being said, let us begin. Number 10, disc-locked characters. Despite how mild this was compared to other entries on here, the heat Capcom got for this was nuclear. Street Fighter Cross Tekken was already starting to get some pushback due to the tendency of matches to end in timeouts. All the more pushback came along when someone data mined the game's disc to find completed DLC characters locked behind a paywall. Everyone from Plague to Screw Attack to the angriest of Joes ripped Capcom to shreds over this. Capcom responded by stating they had put the characters on the disc in order to help players save hard drive space. As someone who owned the flash memory Xbox 360 at the time, I could get that, but come on Capcom, you got this one wrong. Street Fighter Cross Tekken has something of a weird history going forward. On the positive side, a patch update highly reduced the amount of timeouts in matches, and it won the Game Critics Awards Best Fighting Game of the Year. On the other hand, the PlayStation Vita port underperformed, it lost Spike TV's Best Fighting Game award to Persona 4 Arena, and the 1 million copies sold fell 40% short of Capcom's expectations. Capcom blamed the latter on cannibalism of the fighting game genre, i.e. too many fighting games being out in such a short time. Sure. Number 9, Arxis messes with Team Ruby. We're still on bad business practices. Good stuff. At EVO 2019, Arxis dropped quite the bomb revealing a trailer for BlazBlue Cross Tag Battle to a monumental pop from the crowd. The clashing of BlazBlue, Persona 4, and Under Night characters was a hype enough announcement itself, but Arxis had fans going all the more crazy, revealing the Ruby universe would also join the fray. So many players, myself included, were immensely anticipating BB Tag's release. And then, Arxis made the ridiculous mistake of angering many of said players by announcing that there would be 20 paid DLC characters in its first season, effectively launching the game with only half of the confirmed roster. This would also result in half of Team Ruby being locked behind a paywall. The backlash from fans was so immense that Toshimichi Mori responded by releasing the other Team Ruby members, Blake and Yang, free of charge. He further added that the DLC price would not exceed the game's retail cost. While that was a semi-decent recovery, Mori and company should have known better than to bungle what was arguably one of the game's biggest draws. Number 8, Kakuto Chojin Back Alley Blasphemy. The Xbox exclusive fighter Kakuto Chojin Back Alley Brutal was pulled from store shelves roughly a year after its release in 2002. This recall stemmed from Karan verses being chanted in the song Love Hate Chant, the stage theme music of main protagonist Assad. The chant was identified as such from an Arabic-speaking Microsoft employee who's also a Muslim. Said employee reportedly went ballistic and asked for the game to be withdrawn. His complaint fell on deaf ears as it was released in North America under the belief it wouldn't be noticed. Despite this, Microsoft did produce amended versions of the game with a different track for Assad. They also destroyed unshipped copies of the original version. Unfortunately, copies of the original still managed to make it to retailers. To make matters worse, some of said retailers were in unintended locations which would find the original version highly offensive, such as Saudi Arabia. The Saudi government launched a formal protest which led to Microsoft pulling the game worldwide. It had later been discovered that the developers added the chant into the song simply because they liked the sound of it without checking into its origin. Players have pointed out that the same sample of the chant has been used across multiple games, including Parasite Eve 2, cruising the world. The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time, and more. The sample comes from a commercially available sound library. Number 7, Primal Rage pisses off moms. Primal Rage was really something else. While it wasn't the first fighting game to garner controversy over its bloodthirstiness, spoiler, we are going to get to that franchise, do not worry my people, it still made quite a nasty splash. Ugh, word choice. Anyways, Primal Rage featured dinosaurs and giant apes as playable characters. 4 of these characters are virtuous beasts who want to keep peace on Earth, and 3 of them are destructive beasts who are occultists looking to plunge the world into chaos for their own benefit. One feature Primal Rage shared with that other blood-spilling fighting game franchise that we'll talk about later is finishing moves that can be executed at the end of a match. These moves vary from gory to goofy to gaudy, the latter of which is our focus here. Of course, the controversy would center around one of the destructive beasts, but probably not in the way you think. Of his 3 finishers, which every character has, Chaos has one in which he urinates on his opponent. Being a god of decay, it's highly acidic, thus reducing his victim to bones. In 1996, roughly 2 years after its release, the mother of an 11-year-old son, Ellie Rovella, launched a grassroots campaign against Primal Rage. Her son had bought the game, executed the Golden Shower finisher, and was instantly disgusted at her son watching such a vulgar stream. Rovella's campaign led to Best Buy pulling the game from its 200+ nationwide stores. Primal Rage's publisher Time Warner Interactive responded to the campaign, noting that 1. Rovella took the matter directly to the media rather than to Time Warner themselves, and 2. The game was teen rated, thus her son had no business purchasing the game. They even resubmitted the game for ESRB reevaluation, with Primal Rage still retaining its teen rating. Afterwards, the game returned to Best Buy shelves except the Genesis version. They only agreed to sell the Genesis version if it was rated mature, despite most other home versions containing all the same fatalities and gore. Number 6, the Butt Slap of Doom. After being absent from the playable roster of Street Fighter IV and all of its updates, fan favorite Rainbow Mika returned to Street Fighter V. She retained her overall design and a couple of her moves. Among the new things Mika obtained were new moves and an active tag team partner Nadeshiko who assists her with certain moves. One such move is her critical art, in which she and Nadeshiko play catch with the opponent, crush them with a double hip attack in midair before driving them into the ground head first. The controversy centered around the animation that precedes said critical art, in which the camera quickly zooms in on Mika slapping her butt. The animation would later be edited out of the North American version of the game. While Mika still performed the slap, it was obscured as the camera panned more towards her upper body. A portion of the attack cinematic was also altered, as Mika and Nadeshiko do not split the opponent's legs on the drive coming down. Cammy was also censored, with the camera panning in on her crotch during the intro being removed as well. Yoshinori Ono claimed that these amendments were made to ensure that the biggest possible number of people play the game and not wanting to have anything in the game make anyone uncomfortable. Many players voiced anger and confusion over the change, with most noting that Mika's assets are still visible in other animations and situations due to her costume design. Speaking of, number 5, our Mika is too peachy for TV. Still on Mika. Good stuff. This entry actually proves how ridiculous the previous one was. Street Fighter V Grand Finals was broadcast not only on Twitch, but also on ESPN2 for the first time ever in 2016. While having it additionally broadcast by the latter was a good thing, a little something caused a bit of an issue. EVO 2016 Street Fighter V runner-up Fudo was forced to switch from our Mika's default costume to her story costume. Why? Because the former was deemed too revealing by ESPN. So much for not wanting to make anyone uncomfortable, Capcom. Number 4, Kasumi's high kick. I mean, if our Mika caused a bit of a stir with ESPN because of her outfit, Dead or Alive would have been outright barred from being broadcast if it was the EVO main event. Significant controversy arose over the cover of the Nintendo 3DS port Dead or Alive Dimensions. The image, which sees Kasumi performing a kick, was censored in America. Deemed too revealing, the artwork was modified to have her cloth cover up more of her inner thigh. Additionally, the game was pulled from Sweden due to concerns over it violating the country's CP laws. This stemmed from a user on a Swedish forum pointing out that Kasumi, Ayane, and Kokoro, all of whom were aged 16 to 17, could be viewed and photographed from revealing angles. The game was also banned in Denmark and Norway. Number 3, A Legacy of Blood. So where to start with this one? Even with the 11th and most recent game in its main series, Mortal Kombat continues to leave behind a trail of blood, gore, bans, and lawsuits rivaled by no other fighting game franchise. The series itself was a huge factor that led to the ESRB's formation. It'll be the middle of 2024 and will hopefully be out of the current pandemic if I sat here and fully covered all of Mortal Kombat's quarrels and spats. So I'll just pick one at random. Mortal Kombat has seen its share of bans from various countries around the world, but the recent ban of MK11 from Ukraine and Indonesia had to have been quite a downer. The game was set to release in both countries, but it was cancelled due to laws regarding Nazi and communist symbols, possibly in reference to the Russia-exclusive Cold War Scarlet skin. Number 2, the Sacrilege Smackdown. We now go from Mortal Kombat to Immortal Kombat, or Immortal Kombat if you're Malaysia, Thailand, and Singapore. All 3 countries banned Fight of Gods, aka Smite fights. While Smite also received some backlash over its portrayal of Hindu gods, Hi-Rez didn't go as far as to include the likes of Buddha, Moses, and Jesus Christ. All 3 characters are renamed Zen, Wisdom, and Saint respectively on the PS4 version. In Malaysia, Fight of Gods was so controversial that the Malaysian government banned access to the Steam store altogether. Interestingly, the game's developer Digital Crafting had reportedly never received any communications from the Malaysian government concerning the game. Furthermore, they stated that the game takes a humorous approach to religion in the same way other entertainment formats have. They further state that the game is not promoting any religious agenda and is not designed to offend. The ban would later be overturned, however, some of the country's ISPs still block access to the store. Number 1, Thrill Kill. A fighting game so pungent and rugged, no company would touch it. While Mortal Kombat has managed to lean in and use its controversy as fuel, Thrill Kill was engulfed by its controversy. Aside from the high-impact violence and gore, the game also contains elements of BDSM and sexual fetishism. Even the names of some of the moves were pretty vulgar. Like, you'd be hard-pressed to find something about this game that wasn't incredibly grotesque. In the summer of 1998, EA purchased the publishing rights to the game from Virgin Interactive. Around the same time, Thrill Kill's development had been finished. EA then scrapped the game as they felt publishing such a senselessly violent game would ruin their image. They found the game to be so appalling that they refused to even sell the game or have another publisher release it. The game is only available through file sharing after former employees released the full game online. While Thrill Kill was never officially released, renditions of its engine would be used by future fighting games such as Wu-Tang Shaolin Style, Rock'em Sock'em Robots Arena, and X-Men Mutant Academy 1 and 2. That's it for this video. Know of any other crazy fighting game controversies? Let me know in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content in the future. Thank you all for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one. Take care. See ya.